Will the February 12th Planning Commission meeting please now come to order? Will the secretary show that all members are present? Will you all please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the staff please introduce themselves?
Stacy Webb, Secretary for Planning and Development.
Lindsay
Ben.
Manda, Legal Counsel.
Ben Moran, planner.
Tim Ward, Engineering.
LaVarn Bourgeois, Billing Official.
My only comment is that I would like to welcome Councilman Satterlee to our meeting. Glad to have you here. All right. Do I have a motion? Has everyone read the minutes from the previous meeting and agree that they're in
I move
order?
that we approve the minutes.
I have a motion and a second. Any opposed? Minutes are approved. We have no consent agenda tonight, and so the first item is Alton Laborde Senior Property Lots A, D, 2B, 1A, 2A, and AD, 2B, and 1A, 2B. Do we have someone to speak? Please come forward.
I'm Sean with Alvin Fairburn Associates. This is a family partition to donate AD 2B1 A2A to Chet Medlock's father and to subdivide the property accordingly.
Staff have a comment?
No, sir. Everything's been addressed on the plat.
Does anyone else have a comment? I'd like to open a public hearing to hear this issue. Does anyone have a comment?
No cards.
So what is your pleasure? Do I have any comments?
For approval?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any opposed? So approved. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Okay, the next item is B, Ethel W. Scott Estate Property, Lot 7A, 7B, 7C, and 7D. Willard Quitma, surveyors.
How you doing? Clint Whitmore, representing W.J. Whitmore Surveyors. Ask for Planning Commission approval on the Ethel W. Scott Estate family partition.
Does the staff have a comment?
No, sir.
Is there any discussion here? Oh, I'd like to open a public hearing. Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment on this? So there's no one.
Move for approval.
A second?
Any opposed?
No, sir.
All right, the next item is item C, MCAL Incorporated Property Lots AB1 and AB2, Clint Whitmore.
Yes, good. Just a simple partition. All comments have been addressed.
We recommend approval on this one if you guys are going to grant him the variance he's requesting on the T turnaround requirement. He's asking for the variance on it because he doesn't need it, and we don't really require it when it's just a driveway to service one lot. So we're going to eliminate the requirement for it on here.
I'd like to open a public hearing. Is there anyone else who would like to make a comment on this partition? Any discussion?
I'll move for approval.
I'll second.
Any opposed? All right, thank you.
That was with the contingency, with the T-turnaround variance?
Yeah, can we revisit that? That's right.
He made the
Lindsay?
motion with the variance?
Second. Yeah.
Yes, with the variance, yes.
Okay.
Okay, it wasn't verbally made, but
Just let the
just
record
move for
show.
approval.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, we'll revote since we didn't verbally say that.
Right, that didn't. So I'd like to move for approval with the variance,
I'll
T-turnaround variance.
Okay, any opposed?
Good catch.
All right. Item D, Donnie D. Meir property lots 14B1 and 14B2. Mr. Quitma.
Yes. Again, this is one lot into two, and I believe then we're asking for the variance for the T-turn for that reason as well. I don't know if that's stated on the plat, but we'll put it on there as a condition. It'll be fine.
Don't see it anyway.
Ben?
It's not required on this one because the road's only 75 feet long. It's required when it's 250 feet.
The last one was only 192-ish. I was wondering about that.
Is there, I'd like to open a public hearing. Is there anyone who'd like to make comment on this item? Is there any discussion here among the board?
Move for approval.
I'll second.
Any opposed? Item passes. Item E, Alfred Roper Jr. property and Darlene Darlene R. Wagasback property lots 7A1, 7B1, 7C1, and 7D. Mr. Quitman.
Yes. With this particular family partition, obviously, we have 3.5 acres in the rear, so we're asking for the variance for the T-turn, because obviously want to subdivide possibly in the future. In addition to that, we have some mortgage requirements from Chase, and so we want to have approval before we start to spend the money on achieving all those off the checklist. So that will be contingent upon mortgage improvement as usual.
Yeah, we agree with that. Chase has kind of a lengthy process to modify in the terms of your mortgage with legal descriptions. It would be a shame for them to start and go through everything they need to with Chase and come back here and it be denied. So I think approving it on the conditions that they get all that done is that's what we recommend.
Open a public hearing for comment on this. Is there anyone who would like to discuss this item in the audience? In that case, is there any more discussion among the board here?
I'll recommend approval contingent upon the variance being granted in the lending institution granting approval. I'll second.
Any opposed? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Have a good evening.
The next item is a public hearing to approve or deny the following preliminary plats. Hollows at Dutchtown, MR Engineering and Surveying, LLC. If anyone's going to make a public comment on this, would they please come up and sign the list, the card, so that you can be called up?
Opposition or in favor of it? I'm here to present it. Do you need me to sign a sheet
Yeah.
also?
Yes.
Okay.
No, you don't need to sign a sheet. You just need to
Okay.
tell us who you are.
Thank you. Good evening. Mickey Robertson with MR Engineering and Surveying, and I'm here tonight representing the developer, Mr. Jameson Chauvin, for the Hollows at Dutchtown preliminary plat. This development is 75 acres, located in the northeast quadrant of 621 and 73 in the Dutchtown area. We're going to have approximately 196 lots that are going to vary in size from 60, 70, and 80 feet wide. Sorry, go ahead. It's going to be built in 3 phases with about 70 or so lots in the first phase and so 60 or so in the second and the remainder in the third filing. There will be a detention pond for each filing that will take care of the drainage not only from the subdivision but also any adjacent drainage that may come through the property. We've prepared that drainage study and it's been approved by DPW. We have also, in accordance with the DPW requirements, we have prepared a traffic impact study. Part of the results of that traffic impact study recommended that we install a right turn lane when you come off the interstate on 73, sort of head back towards Airline, coming into our development. They requested that we put a right turn lane in. We have agreed to do that, as part of our approval. So we have, we met all the drainage requirements, all the traffic requirements. We have met all of the new requirements that were enacted at the end of last year in September, so we do meet all the new ordinance in terms of park area, the density requirements and those things. We will have an area in the back that is going to be a green area that's going to have a trail, a walking trail going through it. It will have a pool and a clubhouse in the front of the lots. And beyond that, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you. Staff report on this?
He said it all. We've worked back and forth with them on this for 2 or 3 months, getting everything ironed out to where this meets all the new regulations and requirements, and we're satisfied with how it came out. And as far as the traffic study goes, I know Tim has talked to Jason Taylor, chief engineer, who's talked to Mickey about the comments that they need to address with the traffic study. But other than that, we recommend approval.
Before I open the public hearing, I think some commissioners might like to ask the engineer some questions.
Mickey, I have a question for you. For the drainage study,
Yes, sir.
there is currently existing some either drainage right-of-ways or ditches through the property that drain the residences on 621.
Right, correct.
What's the status of that? Will they be maintained? Will they be improved? I know there's a lot of concern about that.
They will be improved. We have if you notice, the one main ditch that runs from the center of the property sort of to the back and drains through Prairie Oaks to the north. That's in our third pond. We're sort of taking it into that pond and making it bigger. But we have addressed the drainage concerns. There are some folks here tonight that, do have some concerns about 621. I gave them all cards before the meeting. We're going to come and talk with them and make sure that we take care of whatever issues they may have. They said maybe they have some ponding water in their backyards, and they just want to make sure that we, take that water off of their property. And we're going to have rear yard drainage in those lots along that, let's call it their north property line, our south property line. That's going to take care of that drainage and get it into our system and get it out of there. And we're going to detain it such that we're also not burdening the property, where we're outfalling it.
Okay.
So we have taken that into consideration.
Thank you.
Does any other commissioner have a comment or question?
Based on what you just said, how do we ensure that they live up to what he just said?
I'll be reviewing the construction plans when they get it done. We have general concept now, which is approved, and we state that it's preliminary approved, and we'll just have to look at the construction plans when they come in.
Okay.
I want to make sure I understand something. You're draining the properties on 621 into a retention pond that's in the third filing?
No, sir, we actually have 3 separate detention
Right.
ponds. So wherever it currently goes, we'll make sure it continues to go there.
So your retention pond is sized to accommodate draining the lots on 621?
Yes, sir. We have some additional capacity in that system. There was a certain flow coming off our property beforehand, and after we're done with development, we have less than that coming off. So we have capacity in our ponds to take care of what's going on 621.
Is that what you understand, Tim?
Yes, we'd look at that, and we'd look at it closer when the construction plans are done.
Okay, so regardless of the filing that's being done, there won't be a time when the properties on 621 won't be drained, or will be impacted, I should say. There won't be a time when they'll be impacted by
No, sir. Right.
the development.
Right, we have it set up such that as each filing is built, the detention and the drainage for that filing is also built, so that it's taken care of.
Any other commissioner? I'd like to open a public hearing now to discuss this item. Who is the first? Has anyone signed up?
Paul Johnson.
First off, let me explain something. I get very nervous in front of people. I talk very fast, and I'm a little passionate about what I say, so it's not out of anger or nothing like that. But I just listened to what the gentleman said, and to be honest with you, I don't believe any of it. Look at the plot plan itself. There's houses completely across the property line. Can you put it up there where we can see it? Can I do that?
Yeah.
Do I have to?
We on a horrible angle.
No, this is what I want to show. You see this line right here? These houses are built on the back of our property. Where's the drainage? There is none. That's lots, 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 lots. And then a park. Now, where's the drainage on there that is supposed to be addressed that he said we wouldn't get flooded? I live right here. That's a lot of Levin Tanglewood. It's not as conveniently outlined in this a lot. It's 3 acres. I lived there for 1976, I think I moved there and built a home. I have fought water all my life there, trying to get it to divert. You know where it comes? It comes and goes to the back, and then it changes directions. All of this that he's talking about is the wetland. There's a good reason that's a wetland. You know why? Because it's a low spot. It's where all the water goes from all of these areas along in here. It goes this way. When you build all of this up, a pond is not going to be a solution to our property. I have a business in the corner of my property in the back. I built it there for a reason, to get it away from everybody. It doesn't bother anybody. And they're going to have two houses directly on the other side of the fence. My question also, who's going to address that? When these people move in and don't like the noise that I make, don't like the dust that I create, and don't like the mess in my business right there. Do I have any legal recourse from any of y'all to take care of this? Or am I just going to be stuck with what y'all approve? That's the question I'm asking now. No answer? So I guess I'm on my own on that one too. And I'll ask you another question. What person on this board would approve these plans if they lived on that lot right there where that road drives directly into the back of their home? I live upstairs in my house. My bedroom, my bathroom, all is upstairs. I'm going to sit there at night and watch people drive straight into the back of my house. Would you approve it for your house, or 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 your house? I ask my question to each one of you. If this was your piece of property and you were living there, what would your vote be tonight? Yay or nay? I just have a real problem with this. I do. I have an issue. One of the biggest problems I have is I know the parish is going to grow. Look, I'm realistic. I know they're going to develop it sooner or later. I just don't like the way it's being addressed right here. But what I do have an issue with the regulations that are put on new builders and the way they have to bring the property up. Right on the side of my house, there's a brand new business. It's Dutchtown Car Care. On the side of that property, the next property over, Jeff Griffin has a little white house right there. Jeff Griffin has been my neighbor for umpteen years till he finally moved out. He moved out about 3 or 4 months ago. But because of the way the parish's regulations were, when he built Dutchtown, oh, please.
Just so that everyone can speak.
If you'll let me finish it, I won't say another word.
If you say
They
10 more seconds.
raised his property up, it floods Jeff's property. I own property on 42, 28 acres. They built a subdivision on the outside of our property, we flood today. This is y'all's rulings, and this affects us, so please consider that when you vote.
All right, thank you, sir. Then,
And I'm sorry I didn't get through all my points either.
next person.
Martha Johnson?
Hi, I'm Paul's wife, but I too get nervous. Again, I've been out there since 1976. I disagree with your studies. Where's the young man at? The flood studies. I disagree with it. I looked it up. Mr. Satterley kind of sent me an email showing the drainage and how different stuff flows and how different stuff drains off according to time and according to the soils and whatnot. It reads like stereo instructions. But this was my backyard this morning. I don't know how to turn the...
Just stick your paper on it.
It's on there. That's my backyard this morning. It's 7 a.m., around 7:15. Again, front yard, side yard. Also, you know, like I said, he says he's going to fix the drainage again. Like he shows the plat, there's going to be homes down through there. Like Paul said, when they built the Dutchtown Car Care, it's up so high that that area where Jeff Griffin used to live stays underwater. The man building the house in the back down on his property, on the same property as Dutchtown Car Care, he's remodeling the old Burns house. He's also having trouble getting back there. Water just kind of stands there for a while, but then it'll dry up, okay? I have no problems with them developing this land other than, like Paul said, I don't appreciate having a road coming into the back of my yard. I sleep very lightly. It's hard for me to sleep. I just thought maybe they could tweak the plans just a little bit, or maybe put up some kind of barrier, some kind of walls. Nothing like that is being addressed. Now, as far as the traffic, I have buku pictures of the, you know, they say there's no traffic impact. Right now on 621 at 650, it starts backing up in front of my house. That's lot 11 on that Tanglewood, way back there. That's a half a mile from 73. And I know they said all he has to do is put those little turn-in lanes and it'll be all okay. He was trying to buy an access onto 621 so that they'd have another exit out of there. Or put an exit out on Tiggy Duplessis, which is even more substandard than 621. So y'all need to really consider the way this thing is laid out. Like I said, I have no objection to them developing it, other than it needs to be tweaked. And that I do disagree with the drainage studies, and I do disagree with the traffic impact, because it does impact. You can't get out of the driveway. If an ambulance comes out, and Mr. Terry, his wife's been very sick, if he has to get out and get her to the hospital real fast, he's stuck. That's it. She won't make it. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Someone else? Is there another speaker?
Gary Bourgeois?
Yeah, that's my major concern is the drainage. They pretty much touched on everything, but what are the elevation of those lots going to be at? Because like he showed that row of houses behind us, if they built all those lots up, that's going to be a levee there. And there's a lot of water that comes through there. From 621 to the back of my property is approximately 3 to 3.5 foot. So it's a lot of water that rolls through there. The water is going to be the biggest problem, getting that water out. And that's what we're concerned about. And also, is a privacy fence going to be put up? We hadn't seen or heard of anything to that nature. But we're definitely concerned about the water. That's the biggest issue here.
When you say 3 to 3.5 foot, you mean the back of your lot is lower?
From the elevation of 621
Yeah.
to the back of my property is roughly 3.5 feet fall.
Where does the
within
water?
360 feet.
Where does the water carry now? I mean, does it carry to the back of your property to a ditch, and that ditch runs
No, there's
to
no ditch.
73? I
It
mean,
just
where?
all runs to that wetlands that they're talking about. Everything runs to that, and they have a canal that runs through the property in the third filing that he showed.
I mean, I'm sure that watershed was taken care of in the drainage impact study, and that's what's being pulled into even the first filing detention pond, or would that not be into the third filing because of the development? Okay.
So, I mean, these other questions that we have, I mean, how are we going to get them answered, or when would we get an answer for those?
Yeah, I would like to say, I would think that if anything, that this would help. I mean, these drainage impact studies they're done to where they can't put any more flow onto your property. I mean, it almost sounds to me like they're going to help out your situation with that 3 foot of fall.
I don't believe in that. I mean,
Okay.
because like you just showed that row of houses across the property line, they're going to have to dig dirt out of them ponds, I'm assuming, and build that elevation up, correct?
No, we're not gonna build it up. We're not gonna create all that.
You're not building the elevation of the lot up at all?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if we can.
All right. Would you mind
Let's address it, yeah.
coming back up and addressing the question? You still, oh, your time is up. So would you like to, before we go on with the hearing more, would you like to address us now?
Let everyone speak, and then I can.
Okay.
All right. Well,
That's fair. Yeah, I didn't mean to jump ahead.
who's the next person that would like to comment? Have you signed the sheet there?
My name is Barry Lacey. I live in Prairie Oaks. I live on the other side of the development from these people right here. I'm also a registered professional engineer in the state of Louisiana. I had a couple of concerns. They touched on a couple of things. I live way in the back of the property, I guess in the third file. I live lot 152. One of my things was the drainage. Most of the lots in 150 in Prairie Oaks, the last 20 lots or so where I live at, back up to this property. And it'd be a fair assumption, like mine, it's turtleback. The front half of my property drains towards the street, the back half drains towards the back of the property, into this big watershed. There's a lot of wetlands back there, and we have the biggest wetland behind my house to be mitigated, I think. I hope that was taken into account, but like the gentleman said, I hope the lots are not built up, because if it's built up, my lot and 30 other lots next to me have no way to drain, the backside of it. One way to fix that would be, I guess, to put a yard drain, put a swale to the back fence, let it go along the fence, find a yard drain every 2 or 3 or 4 lots, and get out to the street on the new development, okay? But I would hope that they don't do that until it's all developed. In other words, the drainage is taken care of before the lots are developed, to take care of our drainage. Another thing is, there's a lot of trees back there that I've appreciated for the last 15 years living back there, and all those trees, I guess, will be gone. The one thing I hope is I do have one tree on the property line between my house and the neighbor's house that's on the property line of the backside of the house. And I would like that tree to stay, because everything else, I'm guessing it'd be obliterated. Like I said, there's a lot of wetlands. Most of the wetlands is behind my house, the majority of it. I know it has to be mitigated some kind of way. I've looked at the drainage study, and it's kind of scary. You know, I live on the high side. These people live on the low side, I think, behind me. And as an engineer, it kind of scares me. I don't know which way that they plan. I know we're construction too for the state. I don't know which way. I'm guessing doing first filing, second filing, third filing. I don't know how the detention ponds are going to work as they develop and clear the land, but I hope it doesn't flood me as well as the people on my backside here. The other thing I had was the, once we get past the drainage and trees and everything else and the wetlands mitigation, is the fencing material, I guess, between the property lines. I mean, we don't know, like, when God brought it up, what's it going to be made out of? Is there a requirement for the Ascension Parish? Right now, the property owner, and I helped him move his property back, one of the bros, it's a 3-strand barbed wire, you know. It's nice to have back there. We can crawl back there and go in the woods when we want to. So that's all I had.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Is there another speaker? Would you like to readdress these?
Thank you. I think I'd like to start with the easiest one would be the traffic impact that Ms. Johnson mentioned, that our study says we weren't going to have any impact. And actually, our study says we are going to have an impact, and thus we must spend $250,000 on a turn lane. So we are offering, we are mitigating our impact in terms of traffic. Same thing with the drainage study. We understand all their concerns, but, if they've got a concern that we're going to build up our property and we're going to force drainage to sit in their backyard. Well, if the drainage is sitting in their backyard, it's sitting in our backyard too. So we wouldn't design a development that's going to flood our own backyards. So we're going to have rear yard drainage. We're going to take care of their drainage. We're going to get it into our system, and we're going to get it out of there. And we're going to detain it just like the study says, and we're going to do everything, specifically by the book to make sure that we take care of drainage. I think those are really the only two concerns we heard were traffic and drainage were the two big concerns that we heard. And I'm here to assure you that we're going to take care of the drainage issues out there.
Mickey, can you address their concerns about the fencing yet, or you haven't decided that?
We haven't decided 100%, but more than likely, as the houses are built, everyone's going to build a wood fence anyway. So, it's going to end up being, if the developer doesn't just put up one solid wood fence along the whole way, everyone's going to end up with a fence there anyway. So they're going to end up with a privacy wall there, especially in that corner back there where those folks were concerned about the road and the way it comes, into the back of the property. So it'll end up with some kind of fence back there.
Well, there's a big area in the third filing that's a common area. You intend to fence that?
CA1.
Oh, you mean
It's not
the
anybody's block.
the park
It's not
area?
anybody's lot.
I think CA1, huh?
CA1, yeah.
Right, that would be our common area where the trees are remaining. Yes, it's very likely that the developer will. I think that question came from this way, that he'd end up fencing that off as part of the park.
Fencing that with a wooden fence?
Yes, sir.
Some sort of thing.
Yeah.
The dashed line that's shown behind all the lots on both the north and south side, is that a drainage servitude? It's not dimensioned on?
No, sir, that's just the rear building line. I mean, there's a required 15-foot rear drainage servitude on all new lots in Ascension Parish, so.
Wait, say that again?
There's a required 15-foot drainage servitude on the rear of all, a minimum of 15. Depending on what size the pipe ends up, you put a ditch back there, it depends on how big the ditch is. And
Is
then
there, Tim, is there a drainage servitude in the back of the lots on 621?
Not that I'm aware of. And actually, I'd like to correct his statement. We don't require necessarily have to have that 15-foot servitude. If they need it, they will have it. We'll make sure of that, and it could be larger than 15 feet. But they only have to put it in if they need it.
So how are you going to take the drainage from the back of the lots on the south side into your pond?
You look at some of these lots, some of them are larger, where you've got a 65 or a 75-foot lot in there. That gives you an opportunity to have a servitude on the side of the lot, so that you can put drainage from the street to the rear yard, so that you can drain that rear yard to the street drainage and then into the pond. If all the lots were 50-foot wide, then you'd have no opportunity to put drainage along the sides of the homes. But some of those, some of them are larger, some are smaller, so it does give you the opportunity to do that.
What, it was mentioned that the lots along 621, the backs of those lots are pretty dramatically lower than the fronts.
Right.
They all drain in that direction. How is that going to be relative to the lots on the south side? What about the backs of those lots? Are the backs of your lots there going to be at the same elevation? Or are you filling those lots? I mean, we're assuming you're putting house pads down for
Right,
houses.
at a minimum, we're going to be putting house pads, right.
Okay, what about the lots themselves? You're filling the entire lot?
Filling makes it sound like we're going out there and we're building a levee. We're not going
Well,
to.
if you're building it any higher than
Right.
than the current ground is, it means you've got to divert the water and
Right,
take
and that's
care
what
of
the
it.
rear
So-
yard drainage is there for, is to, if the water comes off of our house into our backyard, then it's going to go into our rear yard drainage as well as their rear yard drainage, and it's going to be routed to them.
So this is going to be surface drainage. Wait a minute. Surface drainage, rear
No,
yard
sir,
surface.
Subsurface, yes, sir.
Subsurface.
Yes, sir, sorry, maybe I wasn't clear about that.
Okay,
earlier.
it's not shown on here, and well, at least I didn't see it. and
No,
it's not
it
really
typically
clear.
doesn't show up at this stage.
To the
when
construction
Mr. Ward
plan.
reviews our construction plans later on.
So in the
That's what-
rear of these lots, you'll have subsurface drainage.
Yes, sir.
Catch basins.
Yes, sir.
It's going to take the flow from lots on 621 and the lots
Yes, sir.
on the south side through one or more of the lots.
Right.
Through a drainage
Yes, sir.
service, if you want to call it that, into your retention pond.
Correct, yes, sir.
And the elevations all work out where?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the retention ponds eventually drain where?
To the north, through there's a large drainage ditch now, that, there's a pipe and a drainage ditch that runs through Prairie Oaks, through Waterford, around to the east, and it gets back into the Grand Goudin, and believe it or not, comes back to the east of this property over here. So it kind of, that's where it ends up. Ultimately, it goes through Prairie Oaks, Waterford, into the Goudin.
Well, I can't blame the folks that are here complaining about the drainage for being concerned because it's complicated.
Sure, yes.
And it doesn't sound like it's been explained in enough detail to everyone who's concerned about it. And I think there needs to be some, you guys need to make a better effort to make sure that these folks understand what your plans are. In terms of being confident as to whether it's going to work or not, that's an engineering thing. If I'm confident that Tim and his group can analyze the numbers and say, yeah, it's going to work. It could, and I think Josh mentioned it earlier, it could improve the situation that's currently there. All they want to make sure is that it doesn't make it any worse.
Sure.
So I get that.
And by state law, we're not allowed to make it.
Well,
Right.
We always have that.
By law, you're not, but it doesn't mean that, what you're doing
Right. I
doesn't
understand.
somehow make it worse. So I'm confident that Tim and his staff have taken a good look at this, but it sounds like that we need to do a better job of explaining to everyone exactly how this works, because it wasn't clear looking at the plans. I haven't gone out there
Right.
actually to look at it yet, but.
You're welcome to come to my house anytime you like.
Mickey?
Yes, sir.
Any way you could address the other concern Mr. Johnson had about the road dead ending at the back of his lot? Is there any adjustment that could be made to ameliorate that situation?
Well, it currently ends about 35 feet short of the property line, and those lots are wider to accommodate that T-turnaround. I mean, we could shorten the T-turnaround. We could try to shorten it some, but I mean, if we realign the road, we're going to take it from Mr. Johnson's yard to someone else's yard, so, it's just moving who's not happy about it, dead-ending into their property. And it really
Yeah.
doesn't go all the way to the property line. And that, we can offer to put up a fence at the end of that to make sure that it's there, you know, when that road is built, we can put up a fence at the end to help him with that concern about the, I guess, the headlights.
I don't know how tall of a fence would stop headlights on the second story, though.
That's right.
Get tall fence.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So, state law says you can't make it worse. What happens if you do? What's the recourse of the, is it a civil suit?
Is that a question for legal?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I got my answer.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't.
He got a
Yeah,
nod.
she did.
Public hearing is still open.
Yes, would you like to address us again, ma'am?
I just want to ask, where's the retention pond? Because it doesn't say retention pond on here, it just says track.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, it's kind of misleading. Also, my address is wrong.
Uh-oh.
Sir, the public hearing's still open, so if you'd like to address us, you can come sign a card and come speak. Wait, could you, wait.
Identify yourself.
Would you come identify yourself and then come speak to the meeting, please?
Robert Richard, I'm in Lot 5.
Would you mind signing out one of the cards? Okay, she says she has your name. Okay.
Where do the retention ponds drain into? Do they go into Bayou Grand? What happens when Bayou Grand's filled up with a big rain?
Well, it's the same thing that happens now.
Right.
Everything floods.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
They can't fix that.
I mean, it's not, the point is, the question really is, does this make it any worse when that
Right.
happens
Right,
than it is now?
right.
And that's the real question.
And that's what the drainage
Because,
impact
That's what I'm
we got,
saying. Right now, the drainage goes into the wetlands and kind of dissipates there, but you channeling everything now into Bayou Grand.
well, it
At a
it
higher
eventually-
rate.
I'm assuming it eventually flows that way,
Right,
anyway.
okay, that's all I
So
got.
your real question, which I understand, is this going to make this situation worse or not? It's going to take these
Right.
wetlands out, build houses and stuff, and put some drainage improvements in.
Right.
When the downstream side floods, the same thing's going to happen then, after this is done, as happens now. I mean, I can't see it. When we get really dramatic rainfalls, it's going to flood, and you're going to have backwater flooding, regardless of whether this is there or not.
Right, but you're gonna have all that excess from all the houses that's gonna add to that.
Yeah, well,
In other words, you're gonna at least double or triple the flow.
I'm not sure of that, but that's the purpose of doing the retention ponds is to mitigate
Right.
normal rainfall
Right.
events.
Okay,
But you just can't, no matter what you do, we've got backwater flooding in Ascension Parish, we've got that problem.
right.
And I don't know that this would make, well, that's really the question.
Well, that's where you
Would
match your
make
pre
it
to
any-
post. That's where the drainage impact study assures you that you're matching pre to post. I mean, they're not,
Right.
he's not able to let water off off of the new development any faster than it is now.
Right.
That's part of the detention.
And is any, elevation been shot anywhere along this property?
I'm sure.
I mean, we talking about this is this low and this is high, but has anything been taken to see what the elevations are throughout the whole property?
Well,
Well,
like the
there's,
developer.
there's,
Would just
There's a
staff like
s-
to address
uh,
that?
There's contours shown on this map.
Yeah.
So they surveyed it.
Mr. Reshaw and Mr. Johnson, as the properties sit now, there's a certain amount of water that is determined in this drainage impact study that determines how much, there is a volume of water that comes off of your property now.
Right.
He has to take that into consideration when doing this drainage impact study.
Right.
He has to, he's basically taking, your water goes onto his property now, it's still gonna go onto his property.
Yeah, because,
if he puts a swell, if anything, I would think it was better.
Years, and when it drains, just with no ditch there, it's 10, 12 inches deep with a flow going back there.
And he has to.
It's a lot of water.
He has to capture that now. Now he has to account for that, and I'm assuming that this is going to be done with some swells in between the new lots and your lots, and that's going to be taken into some subsurface, and pipes will be sized, and it'll get to the detention ponds and be detained, and just as slowly as it is now flowing to 620 or 73, it'll continue to flow like that.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Is there
Yes, sir.
anyone else that you may address us once more? Wait, please come forward.
Yeah, the microphone.
And please start the clock, that we haven't been running the clock.
This is common sense, I'm asking this, and please explain to me how it works. Directly behind my house, when I live right there on Lot 11, I kill wood ducks. It's a slough. It's a natural slough. Now, this gentleman's telling me he's going to not bring that elevation up, but he's going to build houses there. How can that be? How can you do that? How can you take out a natural slough that, I catch wood ducks in my pond, my swimming pool. I've actually caught, I didn't know what they were until I brought them to LSU to take care of them. It's baby wood ducks, and they're coming from across the fence. And he's sitting here telling us they're not going to change the elevation of the property, but yeah, they're going to build houses there? How? And if you change the elevation, all of us will suffer for that. All of us. I just don't, I'm asking a common sense question. How can you do that and not impact us drastically?
I can try to maybe, the best way I can explain it, I just, that slough has a volume of water that it's holding right now, that's coming off of your
It
piece
stays
of
about
property.
365 days a year, it does.
And it's up to them to make sure that that volume of water does not change it. It's
up to
still
y'all,
going to
I
take
believe,
that
to
on.
protect our interests, not to them. I'm not looking to him. He's not going to protect my interests. He's a developer, he's building, he's trying to make a dollar, and I have no problem with that. I believe in a free enterprise system.
But the parish
No,
protects you.
Well, but he's working with the developer. You are to represent me and protect my rights as
That's
Ascension
right.
Parish. And I'm addressing this to you to protect me from something that when you talk in just layman's language, I'm not an engineer, but if you talk in layman's language where you have a low spot, you have a slough, and you're going to build houses there, you're going to have to elevate that property drastically. When you do, that changes the entire dynamics of all that property's draining back there. And how there is, like you say, there is nothing on this drawing that shows any drainage behind these homes on the south side, nothing whatsoever.
And that's going to come when the construction plans get approved by the parish, which that's how the parish protects you. I mean, they hire staff engineers that review this drainage and make sure these watersheds are being accounted for in the drainage impact study. I mean, this drainage impact study is pretty extensive. And
Is this the
that's
same
where
one
the
that said
parish
our
protects
property
you.
flowed to the, is this the same study that said my property flows south?
I'd have to,
Is it not?
Mr. Ward, did it
It
say
is.
that?
It's the same impact study that you're quoting now says my water flows to 621, and it does not. None of ours.
I do not have that
As
in
they
front of me
addressed it a
right
while
now.
ago, we have a 3-foot fall from the road to the back of our property on some of our property lines, but your impact study says our water drains that away, and that impact study is not at all correct. And you're making assumptions, and y'all going to make a vote on something that does not, I'm sorry. I get,
It's okay.
I'm sorry. I have a lot of passion about stuff like this.
Nothing wrong with being passionate.
But it says, never mind. Never mind. I'm sorry. I just hope you take our interest at heart. I really do. And just realize that what you're fixing to do is to impact us drastically, and I believe to the negative. Unless there are major changes to the drainage between the property here on the south side and our property. If that would be shifted in some way, a major drainage ditch applied there, some serious drainage, there is, and this gentleman should know, there's a drainage ditch right here that goes straight to the Goudin, right on the side of this. Where this line is right here, there is a ditch that goes from 621 that drains all the front of our property. When our water falls from my house back to 621, when it falls to the road, it goes down in front of my house, and at the corner of my property, it turns, it comes down the side of my property, makes a loop back behind in the backside and goes straight to the Goudin. If they could simply address that drainage straight to the end, it solved 99.9% of all of our concerns. Where you have the, can you see that, what I'm talking about? This right here, this property line that they have drawn right here, there is a major, y'all know where it's at, there's a major parish ditch right there. If they would direct that water, instead of trying to channel it all back this way, if they would just channel it this way with adequate drainage, it would work fine for everybody. I mean, like I say again, I'm not trying to stop this development. I just want to make sure this development doesn't impact us in a very negative way.
Rightfully
And I
so.
think there's options that could be done that would do that, and we come to you to ask you to do those things. Thank you.
Thank you. Staff, Mr. Calendar has a question.
As what he just discussed, that proposal, would that address or mitigate the potential for this drainage problem?
I'm not sure of that. I would assume that they have looked at it, but it's a pre-post thing. We can't just send drainage down there and basically changing the drainage so it goes on to somebody else. But that is something that will be looked at, and things will be looked at closer in when the construction plans come in. And that is the main concern is we'll be looking at it closer.
Mr. Ori?
I don't know if Jackie's finished yet.
I'm sorry.
But the concern I have is, I don't want to rush into something and render a decision when it appears to me that a little more discussion, considering the comments from the public and the potential for safety, haven't been addressed.
The comment that he made about where the water goes versus what was said in the impact study, do we know,
That's what I was going
is
to ask.
that accurate or not?
Well, I'll look at that closer. I wasn't aware of that
Then why
myself.
don't we hold in abeyance?
Do we have the drainage impact study here, Mickey?
Whatever the case is, we're gonna make sure we take care of these people's drainage. I don't know how many
Well-
times we have to say that. If the water's going to the back, if it's going to the front, if it's going to the east, if it's going uphill, whichever way it's going, we're here tonight to tell you that, I'm not a developer, I'm an engineer. The first statement in my oath when I put my hand on the book was, I'm here to look after public safety and welfare, okay? So that is our number one concern. I am not just trying to make a dollar selling a lot. I'm an engineer, drainage is what we do, and we are here to tell you that we're gonna take care of these people's drainage, whatever the case may be. That we are not gonna flood their homes. That's the bottom line. And Josh, I think you understand, the whole pre-equals post, there's a certain amount of drainage coming off their lots, whether it be 1 acre or 100 acres, we're gonna take care of it. That's the bottom line.
Mickey, his question about the elevation of the lots along their back property lines, will they be elevated and how much? Or will they be at the same elevation?
The property that we're developing is not in the flood zone, so this is not a situation where the property is 3 feet below the base flood and we have to elevate it to meet the parish's requirements. We may put a, 2x10 on the ground and form up a house pad, would be our ideal situation. We don't want to have to, we're not going to bring in 3 feet of fill because we don't have to. We're not in that situation. We actually have a situation where we have too much dirt coming out of the ponds. We've got to find a place to
But
take it.
isn't there standing water there now? I mean,
But if you
what
look at it,
happens to
what he's talking about as the slough, that's our green area. That's our area, that's the conservation area. If you'll look on the map, it shows that slough running through the middle of our pond and out into the green area. That's the low area that they're talking about. The area all the way to the east on our property and to the south, right behind Mr. Johnson's property, it comes back up to that area. So where the baby wood ducks are coming from, they're coming out of the slough over on that area of the property. So that there's, I don't know how many times to say that, we're going to take care of their drainage. We understand.
Mickey, what about what he's asking about? Just a quick address off the top of your head. I mean, does it show in the drainage impact study that you remember that it's showing those lots actually flow into 621 versus
There seems to be some
the three-
confusion about.
Yeah, I feel like
flowing
there's
to
a
the front,
discrepancy.
Flowing to the back, whichever direction they're flowing, if we can take them to the east and Tim agrees with that, we're more than happy to do that.
Engineering's not going to let that watershed
Right.
go in the wrong direction.
Exactly,
Yeah,
right.
they're
It's
not.
not gonna, it's gonna be
They're not going to
corrected.
approve your set of construction plans.
Right, exactly.
With
So
you
if
not
the study says
addressing
it goes to the front, it really goes to the back, we're gonna address that. That's not our intent. We're not out to get these people.
Right.
We're not out to try to ruin their property values or flood their homes. We're here tonight to tell you that we have a good development that we want to do with some, high-end homes and a nice development with a club and a pool house and detention ponds, and we're doing all the right things, curb and gutter streets. And we just ask for your approval for that. And if there's some additional discussion that has to be had with these people, some of the folks that didn't leave early from outside, I gave them my business cards. So please call me, let's get together, whatever. My surveyors will be out there for the next 3 weeks doing surveying. If there's something you need addressed, I'll come meet with you personally, we'll be more than happy to make sure that that's taken care of.
Is my understanding, did engineering say you've not had the opportunity to review this drainage impact study? Is that correct?
No, we've looked at it. We've reviewed it. We're going to review it closer when the construction plans come in. That's why we look at it preliminary, it's like, oh, this is a good plan, but we'll look at it closer when the construction plans come in.
I think this is a snippet from the drainage impact study. I mean, we only have one copy, but it does say on the watershed areas, it does say on here that the single-family lots in Tanglewood subdivision to the south drain to the roadside ditch along LA 621. I'm only assuming that that's part of the approved drainage impact study. I can definitely see a concern coming from these people when they say that they have a 3-foot fall from the front to the back. I mean, I can see that. It looks like a discrepancy. I think it needs to.
Based,
On that report that it's draining all of us.
Yes.
We are draining to the ditch in front of our house.
Right,
which
that's what
is
this
totally not
says.
right. We're draining back to the back of that slough. Also, everybody's ditch ends up in my yard.
It's just
But-
all the property comes to
Okay.
we can't fix that.
Yeah, we're going to have to do the microphone if we talk.
Yes.
Based on that there
Yes,
may be
please.
an error in the premise of the
Right.
drainage study, could we talk about this next time and have the drainage people here to talk about the accuracy of that?
Well, I kind of also feel like this is also in the preliminary phase. This is a preliminary plat approving a concept more than it going to construction plans.
I know, but if you don't address these now, because there's an error, like I was saying
Well-
at the beginning, I disagree with his study, because it reads like stereo instructions. When you get drainage at this much
Right.
water at this much time, this much water at this much time, where is it talking? And it's not specific to any area other than their filings. But like I was saying, all that water ends up in my yard. All that trash from off the road ends up at that corner curve. And it also splits and goes underneath 621 and tries to, as the Louisiana engineers have tried to do with the Department of Transportation and drainage and all that, try to make it drain uphill.
Right.
So,
Well, as of right now, there's really not enough data. I mean, they haven't been given the okay to proceed with the
I
development, so
understand
not
that. Now,
enough
like I
data
said, I have
to
no
determine
problem
that.
other than the drainage
Yes,
and
ma'am,
and the road coming in the
rightfully
back of
so.
my yard.
Yeah.
And if he can tweak it, but even out in the foyer, he acted like he wasn't gonna tweak this plan.
Mhm.
So,
Well, your parish has engineers in place.
that
that-
can hold his feet to the fire to make him do this, and just and simply give him a
Sir,
plan.
whenever you talk from that position, it doesn't come over the
It needs to be
TV.
recorded.
What we're asking for y'all is for y'all to stand up again as our interest
And
and
we
not
do.
just simply say, okay, we're going to take, look, I don't know this gentleman from Adam. He might be the most honest guy in the world. But in this world we live in, you can't take people's word on anything.
But-
They'll tell you anything you want to hear to get what they want, and then they go do what they want to do. Now, if y'all can get something in writing that protects our interests, I'm all for it. I have no
But-
issues at all with it.
And that's what our taxpayers, that's what our tax dollars pay for, is an engineering staff that Ascension Parish hires that makes sure that it's more than just your word, that it is.
But your engineering
the-
staff approved something that was totally wrong.
It's in its preliminary stages, though.
But
It
see,
is,
that's-
this is a
see,
concept.
I just want to know that, again, that y'all are going to protect us, that y'all will see, because y'all are the interest of this parish, and we are the parish. They're not. They're developers, and we will you to be on our side.
But you have to trust that
of
your
everything.
staff is going to do that. I mean, it can't go to construction. They will not approve a set of construction plans,
Is that in writing, though?
is what in writing.
I mean,
I mean,
when
this is
you-
official documents when it goes to construction plans.
Maybe I misunderstood. Maybe I'm not making myself plain enough.
And
I would trust this gentleman to keep his word and to address whatever problems we have in our backyard. I would trust him to do that, but in today's world, I've learned that's not enough. It needs to be something that we have, where if y'all pass this, where say, we will do this with the exception and add this contingent, that he has to address our issues. You know, something on that line. I would feel much more comfortable than you just simply pass it and say, the preliminary is okay, turn it over to the engineers, move to the next filing. Because the next filing, do we have a say-so? Do we come up here and talk at all and then, or is it just, see, it's
Yes.
gone, it's out of our hands?
No, there'll be many more public.
There'll be many more?
What I want to ask is that either Ben or Tim or somebody quickly go through the steps that it takes.
The process.
Before this is finally approved for construction.
Yeah, this is a preliminary approval of the drainage plan, so they can proceed with their subdivision, and then we'll get construction plans. We approve those also, and we'll look at all the drainage closer at that time. Once we have specifics on what's going on and how they're going to be draining the property, they'll take into account, your concerns, other people's concerns, and at that time, we'll approve or disapprove the plans at that stage.
Now, will
Now, your
final
concern-
approval come before this body, Tim?
The final plan.
The final plat does.
Yes.
When it's all done and it's all constructed, and then we have the final plat, we'll come in front of
And if
this.
they haven't lived up to their promises, we
They
could
won't,
stop
we
it at
won't
that
be, able-
point.
we won't give approval to the final
right.
plat.
That's right.
Thank you. That's,
You know,
I just
you're-
want
and
to
That's holding feet
y'all's
to the
assurance
fire.
y'all got to protect us.
That
Like I
is-
say, because
that's-
it matters. I mean, we've lived here all our
want
lives,
this back?
and this is going to impact us greatly. Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir.
Everyone
very
who's
much.
been
All right,
here who's
so I
spoken
think,
is also on public record as having voiced your concerns. So you're part of the public record now. So all your concerns have to be taken into consideration. And that's why we ask you to come up to the microphone and speak.
Thank you.
So,
thank you.
would the commission like to take some action now?
I'd like to move for approval on the preliminary plat. I mean,
Okay. Oh, I
we
need
have to close it?
the public hearing is
more
now
comments?
closed. Okay. Josh.
I mean, I would like to move for approval. The drainage impact study has been approved. The traffic impact study, we got a letter tonight that says it was approved. So I mean, I feel like there's no contingencies that are on this preliminary plat. I'd like to move for approval.
What about the concern about whether the drainage impact study was accurate?
I'm under the impression that that's going to get, that this, being in the preliminary stage, that is going to,
Yes, yeah, we'll
That is
look at
going
it
to-
closer at the construction plans.
That's gonna have
And
to be
make
taken
sure-
care of with construction
It's, we'll make sure that no additional water. We're not impacting anybody else from from the surrounding development.
Traffic study has not yet been.
okay. I was under the impression that it had been approved.
Yeah, the only,
Do we have?
the only
Oh, since they
outstanding
agreed for
item
the-
is that right turn lane that.
But he
Nikki's-
agreed to the turn lane at
agreed
the
to
beginning
that.
of the presentation.
agreed
Yeah,
to
that's
that.
was our big main concern was
But
that
since he
right turn
agreed
lane
to
in the
it-
property. We
So
didn't-
if he agreed
obviously
to it,
we
does it
didn't
need
know
to be,
about the drainage stuff.
does it need to be put into the motion since he agreed, or
Well,
it's on
Josh, I think you
record?
probably should still make a contingent on the approved traffic plan.
Okay.
Your motion.
Yeah.
Can we make it?
So,
Drainage and
Right, so you want to make your motion again?
So yeah, make the motion contingent upon all traffic impact study comments and problems being addressed, including the turn lane, the right turn lane.
And drainage?
Can we
and
add,
drainage.
can we add drainage, a review of drainage for accuracy?
Yeah, and go ahead and make that part of the motion too, that the lots along 621 of the drainage impact study be reviewed a little bit closer before moving into construction plan phase.
And I'll second that motion.
All right, so I have a motion and a second. What is your pleasure?
In favor contingent on the motion.
You got the.
We got a motion and a second. We
Yeah,
have
motion
to vote.
second, got to vote.
Yeah.
Motion
So
second,
I have
sir.
a motion and a second.
Yes, sir.
So how do we vote?
All in favor?
In favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
That's
So the
it.
motion passes.
Good. Some good dialogue.
Right, do we have a,
We got one more agenda item.
yeah. Well, has the staff report before it? So, do we have a staff report?
Yeah, well, first of all, we wanted to introduce an item for consideration. We'll be going to a public hearing next month. And we'd just like them to, right now, developers and for small construction permits or even large construction permits, they're required to inspect the site and fill out the forms. And we would like that to be submitted to us. Right now, there's no requirement for them to submit them to us. And we'd like them to submit to us.
That would be the only change in the ordinance?
Yes.
Who do they submit them to now? Anybody?
No, they just have to keep them basically on hand.
On hand.
We're talking about 1 acre lots and above.
All big.
Yeah, 1 acre
1
lots
acre
and
and
above.
above.
Oh, so 5 acres or bigger, huh?
I don't know, that's in
Yeah,
C.
Yeah, well, yeah, they're two different permits.
different-
One is for
okay.
an acre larger, and another is for 5 acres or
5
larger.
So you have a small construction activity completion report permit. And we
Yes.
also have the LPDS permit.
No,
That's the two different permits?
No, that's the small construction activity completion report is part of the LPD S permit.
Okay.
You get, that is a general permit that you get first, you're automatically covered. But, and then when the project is done, they have to submit that, the small construction activity completion report.
All right, Tim, are we requiring them to file a report with the parish, say on a weekly basis, if they make the inspections on a weekly basis, or just have them available for us to inspect?
On the, there are a couple different ways they can report them, and that is spelled out in their stormwater pollution prevention plan. And we want them to submit them to us however they require in the SWIPs.
Okay.
Thank you.
We need a motion to have a public hearing next meeting?
Yes.
I'll so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we have one more agenda item, the ordinance for the engineering staff report.
That's what I was just
Sorry.
talking
That's
about.
it. All right, so do I have a motion to adjourn?
Wait, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask for something, if I
Okay, Mr.
could.
Burgess.
We've talked a great deal about drainage tonight.
Yes.
And about whether something's accurate or not accurate, and a lot of well-placed emotion. We've never really had anybody come forward and talk to us about how drainage is looked at in this parish. And I'd like to use this particular case as the case that somebody comes and says, this is how we look at it, this is where water goes, this is what we try to do with it, this is how we evaluate what happens. To do it for a layman, which you guys understand it, I just
Yeah, you can explain to us as a
understand
body.
water stays and goes somewhere. I'd like to know how we look at it in this parish. So I'd ask that, I don't know how we do that, but I'd ask that we have someone
Would that
come and
be
make a presentation.
Mr. Rue and his staff, or would you all, or who?
I'll put something together.
A
to
presentation,
try and-
basically?
Yeah, to try and explain it.
Kinda
Would you like
educate
us to present something at next meeting? Is that how
Yes.
you?
That's a good idea. I like that.
I think it'd be good for the public to understand it, too.
So does anyone else have anything to bring forward before we adjourn? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Second? Second.
Nope.
All in favor?
That would be, aye.